On this channel, we are on a quest to find little details in Devil May Cry 5 that are often overlooked or even hard to notice. Yet once you do, it is a pretty rewarding feeling that is worth sharing with others. Similarly to my previous content, where I talked about all kinds of details in DMC5, not only in the environment, but also details in animation or even dialogues that are easy to miss, yet they adding so much to the story. So in this video, I compiled a couple of interesting details that I left out from previous content because I keep noticing new things even after years of playing. He said, human? The fuck? He was talking shit to me, calling me a human? So in some of my previous videos on this channel, I talked about some of the surprisingly complex enemy behavior that some of the lesser demons exhibit in Devil May Cry 5. These behaviors, however, are quite hard to notice in the heat of the fight unless you take a step back for a moment and stop attacking. First, we took a closer look at the little Ampusas, who are demons having a similar hierarchy and behavior to ants and insects. They are like worker ants, living in a symbiotic relationship with the demonic Qlipoth tree, so their job is to soak up and collect blood, then carry it back to the tree. And if you don't kill them, you can even observe them doing this. They can actually stop fighting and run from a nearby pool of blood to suck it up, turning their butts into a big red ball. Then, if you let them, they can even run away and escape with it, as they want to bring the blood to the Qlipoth to feed it. Then we also have the enemies called the Nobodies, who appeared in the first Devil May Cry and exhibiting similar behavior in both games by changing their masks. And when they do so, their attacking method also changes. I covered this topic in a text-narrated video, where I showcased the different behavior the Nobodies exhibit, depending on which mask they switching to during combat. You can even pacify them if you happen to break their mask, making them literally unable to even attack without it. And this time around, I also paid similar attention to the behavior of the Angelos. There is two different types of them. The Proto Angelos are the big commander type armors who got modeled after Nero Angelo, presumably by Urizen himself. The other smaller ones having a shield, and they are called the Scudo Angelos. I have never heard of the word scudo, so I looked it up, and apparently it is a coin, typically made of silver, formerly used in various Italian states, which could be fitting for the Scudo Angelos, looking like their armor is made out of silver. Proto Angelo's name refers to being a prototype of Nero Angelo, but they could also be a modified version of it. But what I really want to focus on in the segment of this video, that the Proto Angelos can not only make human sounds, but they can actually talk clear English sentences, which I never really noticed before during the blasting music in the background. But then I lowered the music to 0 and can demonstrate all the different things the Proto Angelos are able to say.
Kill them all. Time for death. Go to hell. Terminate. It's over. Human. Exterminate. Charge! Gunslinger!
And if you know Vergil really well, it immediately becomes clear that they say suspiciously similar things.
Go to hell. It's over.
Go to hell. It's over.
This could be explained by Urizen creating these armors out of his own consciousness, them literally being a part of himself, manifesting out of his trauma when he was once Nero Angelo. Furthermore, the Proto Angelos also giving comments to the Scudo Angelos, and if you play against them in a group and not attacking them for a second, you can notice how the little Scudos grouping up around the Proto Angelo upon his command and attacking at once in a formation. Similar behavior could be observed in DMC4, as the Bianco Angelos also having a commander called the Alto Angelos, having a more advanced version of the armor, and even expressing themselves in gameplay, commanding the Bianco Angelos to group up together and attack in an organized formation. And once we are translating names, Bianco means white in Italian, which makes a contrast between them and Nilo Angelo, the Black Angel. And alto has something to do with referring to the lowest female singing voice and categorizing instruments. I'm not really familiar with this topic, and the only explanation I have to it is to connect it with Kyrie, who also singing in the beginning of the game. And if you are having trouble keeping up with these names, then just remember that all of these angelic demons having a name that ends with an O. Nilo, Bianco, Alto, Proto, Scudo, Nero, and Credo. Kinda sus if you ask me. So even though the formation attack behavior was demonstrated before, this is the first time we can hear an enemy in DMC, which is not a boss but a lesser demon, talking with clear English words. And it is a bit unsettling and unusual at first. But it's not only the Proto Angelos capable of speech. The goat-like demons, the Lusacia, that have many mouths on their bodies, can also talk. However, they speak in an unrecognizable demonic language in order to chant loud and create a spell, which they use to release magic attacks on you. The next detail I would like to talk about can be seen in the two cutscenes where Vergil divides himself inside the abandoned family home, which being put in contrast with Dante also returning there in order to perform the same ritual, but in his case he unlocks his Sin Devil Sugar form. I heard fans pointing out the similarities and some key differences in the two cutscenes. One major difference is that Vergil turns away from the family portrait when he performs the ritual, while Dante facing towards it. But this family portrait actually tells a little bit more story in the cutscene than I realized. These cutscenes plays out in the darkness, and light and darkness actually tells us something when you look at the painting. In the cutscene, which shows Vergil dividing himself, the family portrait shows Eva, the mother, Sparda, the father, and their two sons in the middle. The twins can be easily discerned from each other based on their hairstyle, which is kinda cute. Vergil was already wearing his hair swept back, while Dante had it let down. According to that, Vergil is the kid who is dressed in black, while Dante is dressed in a white shirt. And in the cutscene of Vergil, the moonlight shines on his face to highlight him, while Dante is shrouded in shadow. And the opposite happens in Dante's cutscene. The lights on the painting change, highlighting Dante instead, and shrouding Vergil in shadow. This gives us even more hints which child is Dante and which one is Vergil. The shadow of the painting also becomes a storytelling tool when we see Urizen's shadow emerging and swallowing the painting. While Dante's cutscene, we see his Sin Devil Trigger form being casted onto it. Two different demons, but perhaps symbolizing the same type of darkness inside the twins. Next, we got some very interesting human and demon-shaped statues scattered around outside and inside Urizen's throne room, the boss arena, where you fight him for the first time. These statues, or more like petrified or crystallized bodies, are quite hidden in the dark and blending in the environment, so they are quite hard to spot unless you stop and look closer. So before you walk up the stairs leading up to the door, you can see there are some quite tall statues decorating the stairs on both sides, and upon taking a closer look, it turns out these things have a human face on them. It looks like these are humans who got imprisoned in a giant Qlipoth seed pod. I'm not sure how to interpret them. They could be demons too, but they lacking any demonic feature, so I guess these were supposed to be humans who somehow got trapped inside these tree seed pods, perhaps serving as a sacrifice for the tree. But behind them, we can also see more statues that actually resemble a human body, but only having the legs and the torso, as if these were supposed to be creatures that tried to grow out of the Qlipoth, but failed to grow into a full body, and they got petrified. I'm not sure how to interpret all these statues around this area, but it seems like the designers were trying to add some sort of a feeling that this is not simply just a tree, but it was also created by some sort of intelligent design to make it look like it is also like a building made by demons. It shows how Urizen already established some sort of a little kingdom inside the Qlipoth, with demons being his servants and making the insides of the tree look magnificent and fitting for a king. So it also adds some sort of a human touch to this alien environment, making it look more alive and lived in. In my previous video about the statues and environment details in DMC5, I also mentioned the hooded figures in the Qlipoth, but right after that I noticed these statues just before Urizen, and remember when I pointed out how the red orb clusters and green and white crystals are actually being held by a petrified demon? Well, it turns out even more of these same demon shapes can be seen inside and outside of Urizen's throne room, but this time their skin texture looks more crystallized, having the same texture as the Qlipoth, as if these demons sacrificed their own body in order to build the throne room. It seems like demons were actually very devoted to Urizen. These bodies also can be seen in a giant form outside of the throne room. These same shapes and bodies can also be found inside the throne room, with their wings decorating the edges, and you can see even more demons kneeling in a pool of blood next to the throne, as if they were worshipping Urizen, but got crystallized in the process. And that's pretty much all I found in the Qlipoth. There are so many other little statues you can find, but none of their shapes making sense to me. And these are the only humanoid or demon shapes I found. The only other interesting little shapes are these weird little things glowing in red that looks like little demon gummy bears with tiny horns. Not sure what they're supposed to be, but they are definitely part of the Qlipoth. But for anything that has a human or demon shape, that's all, except maybe I can mention the pile of human corpses that got sort of melted into each other and got petrified as their bodies got absorbed into the tree. You can see them in the beginning area inside the Qlipoth with Dante, and outside as well, before you enter the theater with Nero and V. This game focuses on three main characters so heavily that they even designed the environment around them in order to reflect Nero, V, and Dante's personality and story. For Nero, it's a bit different. He starts in the prologue inside the Qlipoth, heading towards Urizen. Then, the real first mission starts on a bridge, heading straight towards the Qlipoth road boss. I would consider this mission sort of a tutorial segment, allowing the player to familiarize themselves with the movement and getting a bit more confident with Nero after the dark, confusing memory of being inside the Qlipoth. Then, Nero's real first mission, in my opinion, starts in Mission 2, where he enters Redgrave City. If you don't move your character and just look and listen around you for a moment, you can notice the environmental storytelling around you. For Nero, his first scene includes a blue atmosphere, playing at night under the rainfall. There are blue neon lights ahead of him. After all, one of Nero's main colors is the color of blue, associated with Vergil. There is also gentle rainfall around him, and rain and flowing water, in my opinion, is also associated with Vergil. Nero's next mission also plays in the flooded city, surrounded by flowing water. And Vergil's first and last boss fight in DMC3 also included rainfall and flowing water. V's first mission is Mission 4. When you start as V, you're standing in the darkness, which almost absorbs V into it. You can barely see V in the darkness, but there is bright light ahead of him. Could be symbolic to V and Vergil as they journey from darkness towards the light. But instead of neon lights and the support of Nico, V is surrounded by stinking trash. He is sneakily choosing to go through dark corridors to avoid the attention of demons as much as possible. The treasure anthem is also kind of demoralizing for his prideful character. It's Vergil inside of him sank so low, and he has to accept this weak, demoralized state in order to push forward. For Dante, he starts next to a pool of red blood in a graveyard, literally the two words red and grave put together. Red Grave City, after all, is where Dante originates from. Both Dante and we goes through the graveyard of Red Grave City, which makes me wonder what is the history of this place and why is it called Red Grave City? Why is there so many dead? Before I close this video, I would like to briefly mention some new observations that I made after releasing videos on these topics. In my previous video, where I explained everything about the topic of mirrors in Devil May Cry and what does reflection symbolize in these games, some of you pointed out in the comments that if a mirror is a border between the human world and the demon world, that could also explain why the demons first appearing in DMC3 entering through shattering glass effects. And similarly in DMC5, when you summon Nightmare, he can also enter through a shattering glass or perhaps a mirror, as he breaks the barrier between the two worlds in order to enter the reflection and manifest in the human world. And if you remember my video on the moon and sun symbolism in Devil May Cry, you may recall that I connected Vergil with gold and the sun. And much later, I heard that there was a clan in Japan called the Yamato Clan who worshipped Amaterasu, the sun goddess. In the video, I mentioned that Vergil using a katana and being like an honorable samurai could be also a little bit connected to Japan and its sun flag symbol. However, I never heard of the Yamato clan and their connection to an actual sun goddess. The video I made focuses on the alchemical meanings of gold and the sun, but seeing this similarity and potential connection is also pretty cool. Also, it helps us attach even more meaning behind the name of Vergil's sword, the Yamato. In my video, where I explained every sword in Devil May Cry, I explained how Yamato in the game's lore refers to the god of death, Yama, which I believe to be the true meaning behind this sword, but the Yamato clan is also a cool fun fact that I could have mentioned in those previous videos if I knew about it. Well, now you know. And that's all I wanted to mention in this video. I hope you enjoyed and thank you for watching. But before you leave, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments and write anything that's on your mind. And also consider checking out my other videos, some of them appearing on the screen as a suggestion. I'll catch you later and see you in the next one. Bye for now.